A few years ago, when I was running my fitness business, it was during the lockdowns. A lot of gyms were shutting, and a lot of our clients, as a lot of you might be aware as well, were getting home workouts. And I had one client in particular who didn't have any equipment at home, and they were someone who really needed the gym for an outlet for their own headspace. At that time, there was a few gyms kind of opening up privately around Ireland, but charging quite a premium for them to join. So there was one gym that would allow them in, but they didn't have the money to essentially join the gym. So what I decided to do out of my own money is actually pay for that month for him to go to the gym and use that gym membership. So funnily enough, that amount that it was for the month was actually more than he was paying for coaching. But that's something that I wanted to do for someone that I cared about. And that's always how I showed up as a coach, caring for my clients and wanting the best for them. And something that happened off the back of that relationship has completely changed how I coach moving forward. And it doesn't mean that I care less, but it's just ensuring that you're commanding the respect. And also to make sure that you become a coach that your client respects, because that is going to be the thing that gets them the best result and both of you the best experience in the relationship. So about 18 months had passed by. Obviously had a really good relationship with this client, had done a lot for them to get them to the point that they were in life. And I remember on the side of helping him as a fitness client, he also started doing some coaching himself. So no extra money, just out of my own goodwill. I was helping him with some of his clients. He was sending me people over, and even like with peak weeks with clients and everything like that. And I remember one Friday evening he messaged, and it was outside of actually what he needed from my coaching. It was saying, can you send me over an example peak week? So something that was actually not even the thing I was coaching on, but something that I was helping with as like an extra thing to do. I was out that evening and I didn't end up replying on the Saturday, probably about 18 hours after his message. And his reply to me shocked me. It was, I can't believe you've taken this long to reply to me. You've completely changed. Something along those lines. And initially I was like, oh my God, like after all I've done for this person, for him to say that and to feel that way. But when I actually calmed down and I thought about it, how he communicated to me was actually my own fault. He was leading and communicating in a way with the expectations and the standards that I had created for our relationship. And from that point onwards, it completely changed how I thought about coaching clients. Most coaches think that every difficult client comes down to the client themselves. And in some cases, we both know it's true. But in other cases, I want you to take ownership over the situation and understand that a lot of times these difficult clients aren't born in the relationship that way. They're created. They're created during the relationship that you set. So every exception that you make, every boundary that you blur, every exemption to the rule that you give them in terms of when to message you and when to communicate, or maybe it's the case that you don't communicate with them at all. What they're doing is they're creating their own expectations and their own boundaries with you because you haven't set a precedent with them. So what happens moving forward is 6 months down the line, your clients have incredibly high expectations and you get the sense of resentment towards them, that they're asking a lot for you, they're messaging you out of hours. And if you try push back on those boundaries, then there's some resentment on their end. And what this creates is just a poor client relationship. If any of this is resonating with you, then you're really going to enjoy the next clip of this video, because I'm going to talk you through the coaching leadership model. And this is something I've instilled into my business with my clients, and it's why we have amazing relationships and we get amazing results. And it's something you can install into your business as well. So I'm going to set up in the desk. While I do that, please subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the video so far. You may think you need to care more, or if you do care more, or if you are nicer, that's going to be the thing that changes the coach-client relationship. But you do care enough. And I know that because if you're watching this video, you're someone who wants to level up with your coaching skills. And I've worked with enough coaches to know they care a shit ton about their clients. So caring isn't the thing that you need. And I want to actually share a story with you of Simon Sinek, and he did a talk around excellent customer service, and he talked through a scenario where an airline company that he got onto, and essentially he needed to move his flight. He needed to move his flight and he got onto the airline company and said, I need to be on a flight today. And guess what? The representative was acting in a caring way. Their tonality was nice and it was polite, but it didn't get him the outcome that he wanted. So how did he feel after it? He felt quite resentful, and he said, I'm not going to use that airline anymore. And then he had a second scenario where he got onto an airline and they said, hey, this is usually not in our policy, but I'm going to try my best for you. Just give me 2 minutes. I'm going to speak to my manager. I'm going to see what I can do for you and I'll get back to you straight away. The airline got back to him and they actually said, I tried my best, but I can't do anything about it. Just unfortunately, just the way things are, it literally won't get me to do in the system. I tried myself. I got onto my manager and just unfortunately, there's nothing I can do. How he felt after that experience was completely different. So even though the outcome was the exact same, that person showed up as a leader. They led the situation and they tried to do and direct him in the way that he needed to get the outcome that he wanted. And I want you to take a lot from that, because for you to be the best coach, it's not just about being nice, it's not just about being polite, it's how you're going to show up and how you're going to lead. Over the years, I've realized every great coaching relationship is built on 3 things, and I'm going to share that with you today. So we call this, inside our program, the coaching leadership model. And what we do is we set this expectation with our clients at the start when they join the program, but we also teach them to do the same with their client. And I'm going to share that with you today. The coaching leadership model is built on 3 key areas: direct, believe, and challenge. You want to direct someone on what they need to do, you want to believe in them that they can actually do it, and you want to challenge them to make sure it happens. The first responsibility of a great coach isn't to care more, which you won't be surprised that I'm saying. It's to direct your client on exactly what they need to do, but also the direction of the relationship that you're going to have. And so many fitness coaches get this wrong. They just kind of skim over it and they create this gray area, and that's what happened in my situation. So the story that I shared of the client, it was because I didn't set expectations. It was because I wasn't clear on exactly how the relationship was going to go. So for you moving forward, your onboarding process should be seamless, and the expectations you set should be on point. They should know when they can contact you, they should know when they should expect a response by, and nothing should be left in a gray area. Because when you do that, everything becomes blurred and their expectations can be higher than what you want to do. And if you suddenly start putting in boundaries, that's where resentment can creep in. The way I get you to even think about it is, imagine if you join up with a coach and they said to you, okay, I'm not available on the weekends, you can message me Monday to Friday. If you message me over the weekend, I'll get back to you on a Monday. I'm spending time with my family and that's just a priority for me. I'd imagine, unless you're very, very picky, you'd say, yeah, fair enough, that makes sense. I can get on to you Monday to Friday, because they made the expectation clear from you at the start. But let's say a different scenario where you may message a coach on a Saturday and they never explain to you when you could message or when they'd get back to you, and you just started on the program, so they get back to you, they're quite responsive. Maybe the next week the same thing happens, and then a few weeks down the line you send your Saturday morning message that they've got back to previously, and you don't hear anything back until the Monday. All of a sudden you would feel different about that coaching experience and that coach getting back to you, because there was an expectation there from you that they would respond, because that's the evidence you saw, and there was no clear boundaries or expectations set from them. So this is a really, really important area for you to get right. It's the clarity around what is to be expected, because if you can do that, everything is going to be better from that point onward. Your relationship with the client, actually how much they respect you, that's something I've noticed a huge amount. My clients respect me tremendously, and that comes down to initially being very, very clear on, this is what's going to happen, and I'm going to make sure everything that I say to you, I meet those expectations, and you can always rely on me based on everything that we said. And I'm always going to stick to my word, which I do. My clients respect me tremendously, a lot more than they did when I had a lot less expectations in place, because I set a precedent of how our relationship will be, and I say, okay, I'm going to meet the expectations that I set. So I'm someone you can fully rely on. Everything that I say, I will do, and you'll always get the response from me that you need, and a clear direction, a clear outcome. And from that moment, we have an amazing relationship, we have incredible people in the community, but it all starts from that one first step you need to get right. The second pillar to a successful coaching relationship is believe. For you as a coach to believe in your client, and in the long run, one of the most important things for your clients, like it is for my clients, traits for them to have, is belief in themselves. But I believe that needs to be borrowed by you initially. And why I say that is because that's something I had to do with the first mentor that I worked with. Without me realizing it, I borrowed his belief to get me on a trajectory that I didn't realize was possible for my life and for my business. And it came from our first initial consultation call that we had. I remember I was at a point with my fitness business back in 2020, it was February 2020, and the business just did a 12K month in January, and I actually thought that was a bit of a fluke at the time. I remember being like, wow, if we can do consistent 10K months, I'm gonna be over the moon. And it was almost seeing that momentum, be like, hey, I can see the potential we have, can we like keep here now? And getting on the call with him, he said, you're about a 15 to 20K per month business. And I remember getting off that call saying, yeah, I want to sign up, but what was he thinking with the 15 to 20K? If we can just do 10K consistently, we'll be sweet. 12 months later, the business was doing 30,000 a month, and 12 months after that, the business was doing 60 to 70,000 per month. So someone who initially said the business is going to be 15 to 20K, he said that because of his own experience, because of his own belief state, because He obviously was able to do it with his own business and surpass it. He helped coaches do the same thing. So when he saw me, he saw potential that I didn't realize I have. And I want you to see that in the exact same way with your own clients. When they join your program, there's a good chance they don't have the belief of achieving what they want. They might set a goal because they think that's what's possible for them. Or they may set a goal and they don't actually even believe that is possible. So there's two things that can happen there. Not belief in actually achieving the thing they say, are almost setting the bar so low because they don't even realize what lies ahead for them. But you do, because you've been on the road yourself and because you've helped clients successfully do that too. So for you as a coach, initially the game plan is to instill your belief into them. They can borrow your belief so it can set them on a trajectory. But then it's instilling the expectations that they need to believe in themselves as well, because I think that's very, very important. As you know, if you have clients who are very much glass half empty instead of glass half full, and they're always looking at the negative of a situation instead of the positive, that's never going to breed amazing results. So initially say, okay, I believe in what you're going to do and I know this journey is going to work for you, and I want you to borrow that belief from me. I want you to take what I'm telling you, but when you do, I'm going to set you one standard that you must keep to. I want you to start earning that belief in yourself, and as it's being earned and the evidence is showing, you start instilling that. And you don't let your old identity hold you back from being the person. Become the new identity that the evidence in your work is showing. Because when you do that, you'll have the belief state for yourself, which is going to compound and help you get way further ahead and actually enjoy the journey that you're on. So that's a very, very important pillar. It's everything around believe. The third pillar is challenge. And full transparency, this is actually the pillar that I definitely struggle with the most. I would always want to work with my clients and communicate to them in the most positive and probably the most inspirational way that I could. And sometimes the idea of challenging them was something I found hard to deal with. But as my experience in coaching grew and I understood more and more my role and my responsibility as a coach, I realized the biggest thing I need to get out of each individual is help them make a change. And some people can make that change initially, but sometimes it takes a lot longer and people will stay in their old ways. And if your messaging isn't getting through to that individual, it's as a coach, your responsibility to say, okay, how do I need to communicate and how do I need to challenge this person so I can bring the best out of them? And I think this is very, very important. And it's a reason why in the onboarding forum we have with clients, we ask them a question, how do you want to be coached? What is your communication style like? Because I like to understand that with each individual I work with. Because let's be straight, some people will like the arm over the shoulder approach and want to be encouraged, and that will bring the best out of them. But for some people, that just doesn't work for. Other individuals like to be communicated in a different way to bring the best out of them. And this is actually probably for me now one of the most thrilling parts I get from coaching. It's knowing that everyone has a different personality and getting kind of excited about okay, how can I bring the best out of this person, and getting to understand them more, how they work, what their personality is like, and find for myself a lot of satisfaction in knowing how I need to communicate with them to bring the best out of them. And that I think is a skill that is not talking about or is a bit lost in coaching. People think about coaching just about tactics and strategy and everything you're doing there, but communication and how you're challenging that individual is really important. One thing I want to finish with when it comes to being able to challenge your clients is, remember, the goal isn't to be liked, the goal is to be respected, and the goal is to help them make a huge change. And sometimes that's going to come from uncomfortable conversations that you could lead with a nice conversation. But if that's not what your client needs, then it's your responsibility to ensure you have the uncomfortable conversation. And of course, this is coming about in a way which you know will bring the most out of them. It's saying it in the right way, in the right manner, of course, but it's ensuring you can change their perspective. If something needs to be changed, if there's something in them that needs to be altered, how are you going to do that? That is what makes a great coach. And if you can combine these three pillars, if you can direct and be clear, if you can believe in them and get them to believe in themselves, and if you can challenge them when it's needed, that's what's going to bring about the best coaching relationship. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's stop trying to be the nicest coach and start trying to become the coach your clients respect the most. Because respect isn't created by giving your clients everything they want. It's earned by giving them everything that they need. Lead them, believe in them, challenge them, and that is what creates extraordinary results with your clients.